Hello, hey, what's up? Here we are, the Mosh Pit Daily Vlog. I'm in a library, a real library, not even a green screen library. And we're here today, Kevin, Bob, Calvin. So what we're doing with the Mosh Pit is we're trying to launch autonomous businesses every 14 days, which is quite a feat. And we have in our current cohort, we have a couple of businesses that are starting to emerge. We have Bonus Link, we have Okay Gotcha, we have Bounty Bot, and then we're also researching. We're researching and validating all these as like something that the world needs and the world wants and people will pay for. And so that is that. And then we're also building at the same time and sort of iterating the business build. So we're sort of here to talk about how all that comes about and what we're doing every day to make that vision a reality. So with that, Kevin, let me hand it over to you.
Yeah, and talk about what we've been working on for Bonus Link here today and what I've been driving forward. I actually want to jump back to a conversation that we had this morning that I thought was super enlightening, and kind of where I've been iterating on that. So Bonus Link, quick recap of what it does. We take long form video content and decompose that into the best takeaways and links that you might mention in that content, put it all on one page that you can put in your link in your description of the video. So allowing the viewers to get more value from that video. And we've put some really, really awesome bells and whistles on that so the viewer gets a ton of value out of this content and really unlocks that long form. As we've been working towards the different funnels to be able to bring new users into this and help them discover that value, really been trying to find the right places to go spend the limited time on as you're launching a new product, as we're launching a new product. And epiphany I had this morning, and Dave, thank you for really driving at this, was like getting back to basics of why we created the tool in the first place for the value of the creator, and that's to help them get more owned subscribers, email subscribers into their owned community down the funnel so that they can bring them closer to their community and help them more and give them their offering, be it paid courses, paid community, coaching. They have lots to offer below their free content they're putting out on YouTube. And we had, before we launched Bonus Link, had a deep discussion about, are we close enough to the value created for the creator, or is this a nice to have tool up the funnel? And so I definitely fought for the email capture part of Bonus Link is the value to the creator. Everything else, all the amazing things we have in front of that, is in service of helping that user get more value from the content so that they trust the creator faster. The creator demonstrates their expertise and they want to spend more time and money with that creator, right? And a fair value exchange for everybody. And so really getting back to the basics of that, I'm now working on a lead magnet to be able to help explain that to creators of how they can better build their own subscriber list. And so working on that very short lead magnet and then the channels to be able to put that out there. And so one of them that we've talked about is Reddit, for example. And we've put a few different posts out and comments in channels, and that can be really successful at getting some initial users. But kind of thinking on it this morning as well. And man, Reddit has some of the best intent targeting for advertising, as much as like, oh, ads, boring ads, right? While you're trying to build community and product. But it's really about finding the people that have the pain, which is why we're in Reddit in the first place, and then helping them find that solution. So that's something else I want to go explore tomorrow a little bit deeper, is where could we possibly do some targeting inside of Reddit with this messaging and this lead magnet, bringing value to the creator of how they can build their own subscriber list. And it just so happens that Bonus Link is one of the tools in the stack that can help them do that.
Interesting that you guys had that conversation too. I'm wondering, have you thought about moving closer to the paid aspect of it as well?
Yeah,
As
that's
I
a,
as
that's a
I
great
keep
one.
having the user conversations, and I had a couple where slightly different ICP, but the focus was a lot stronger on the money. So I think they are less the people who have the pain, right? So maybe not directly the ICP, but I still found that conversation interesting.
Yeah, and kind of twofold, two different directions of helping. So getting closer to the paid. Uh, on the other side of the target audience here that we're going after, they have paid courses. They have community with content that's uh, in there, all you can eat content, right? If you're in the paid membership, for example. And the power under the hood that we have with Bonus Link actually allows for so much flexibility there of being able to take a whole back catalog and then with the vector database, be able to slice that up into different segments of content that are all related that effectively are then a module on a topic that happens to be parsed out of multiple videos in your back catalog, and now all of a sudden you've created a course, which is a pain. It is a pain. And now also as you create content moving forward, that same content gets sliced up and added into it, and so now you've maintained your course as well, also a giant pain in order to keep the value of a course, right? A lot of times those fall off pretty quickly, my understanding, for course creators, right? They can monetize them for 6 to 12 months, and then they got to redo the whole thing again to vamp it back up. But for this motion of they're already creating content up in the funnel, and we could slice that up and help them get value out of that, is interesting for sure. That's kind of like, that's maybe an maybe there's the two model. There's like the all you can eat. We could literally just flip that on and say, great, you've got all these different segments. You can search the content. Now it's this big content hub, right? Or we could help them slice that up and create those modules out of there and sell each one of those, right? So if that's interesting, and helping them parse that out a little bit more, if this is the replit module, this is the how to build your email list module, right? And let people ad hoc purchase those. I've not done enough research on that to go, which one's more valuable. It feels like if I had to go from my like observation right now, it feels like 50-50. That's what's happening, just period. The paid community or paid courses, it's like 50-50. So I don't know if anybody else feels differently, that like there's a
Yeah,
tilt one way or the
it's a
other.
good question. Yeah, because it's a different pain, right? Like the pain of, in this case, the strong pain is I don't have the time to create all the material required to do a course, but I do want to create or I need to create another revenue stream, right? That's a different
Yep.
ICP, different pain point.
But I mean, it is. I mean, it all serves in the same direction, right? Like you are creating content. Ultimately, you're creating content to serve an audience, right? So why are you serving an audience? Probably to make money somewhere along the lines. I mean, that's like, why produce any type of content if you're not on the way to monetizing it someplace, right? Unless you're just entertaining and whatnot. But even then, you're even like, Instagram creators or whatnot, they're still creating content in service of getting enough followers, in service to get, Google revenue, right, from that audience. So I think the important thing, and this is I think is important to not just for bonus link, but probably for any app, is that the closer you are to the wallet, the easier it is to sell. Meaning the closer you are to the money, the easier it is to sell, and it's almost inevitably, right? And so, like, you can always, like, saving time is like, like sometimes people just, we think there's a lot of value in saving time, but a lot of people just do what they do because they like it, and the impetus to change for saving a little bit more time isn't enough, right? But if it's like, but if the pain is I need to make more money. I need to feed my family. In order to do that, I need to grow an audience who's going to pay me to make more money, who's to pay so that way I can feed my family. And I think from a tactical perspective, and this is really in line with funnels, right? And how do you, like, ultimately, like, how do you attract people to pay attention? And what is, like, we were talking about AdWords and beginning to talk about, ad campaigns and so forth. And you may spend more money on an ad that is very targeted towards a pain because, of course, there's other people there who are also trying to serve that pain, right? Because pains have been around for a long time. The whole growing my audience and selling them memberships. I mean, these are known surface areas. And I think it's good. I think it's good to solve problems that other people are solving in a different way because you know that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to like reinvent like the service area of problems that you're looking at. You can just go, oh look, uh here's here's a membership model, a Patreon, right? If I can make that better and, take a portion of the creator economy for memberships, I should explore it, right? But the closer you are I think almost inevitably for almost anything you do in line with how somebody gets paid and how somebody makes a living, I think the better the outcomes will be. And the Apple,
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? If you put that same thing onto, to make it concrete for an example like bonus link, right? Then it feels like the result would be to look at what we just outlined, like basically go closer to the direct paid membership rather than go to just a subscribed level with additional content, right? Right now it sits at a
Yeah.
great spot because it delivers great value, but it's like in the middle of that, right? It's in the middle of the funnel, not at the, not directly at the wallet.
I had this crazy idea around bonus link, and I didn't mention it to you because I didn't want to balloon the scope as it sits, but it was like, okay, what, you see creators with merch shops, right? And I'm like, why would you not like put Catawampus and have your merch on here? Right? Like, why would you, if you think of it as like a mechanism to monetize community, why not just go all in and monetize community? Right? Through all the mechanisms, right? Including merch,
Mhm.
including your memberships, including your, bite-sized content, including, why not just, and again, I mean, I'm not proposing product features or wanting to scope creep. It's more a thought exercise of like, a tool like this, how do you really dial it into the guts of the value and what and where and what people are willing to pay for,
And I think you're
and I
calling out
realize
a great point, right? Because that would be equally in the same bucket, right? Of being more directly tied to the wallet. I think the interesting thing is with Bonus Link, we're now at a stage where we can, there's enough proof of the technology and of the cases how it works. So what we can do is like, I think what we could be doing is let's add a couple of landing pages for these ideas and try and distribute them, right? Like we can give
I,
them as sort of this is the coming soon feature. This is sort of an updated iteration and push it onto the back of it and
I've
see how it
already,
resonates.
I've already like on the mosh pit video yesterday that ripped out after having this conversation. Actually,
Yeah,
literally on the title is like how to monetize your subscribers on YouTube, right? And
yeah.
it's like trying to get more in the eye of the storm of what people really want and why they're showing up and creating all this content to begin with. So I'm sort of all from my perspective, and even in thinking in terms of like how I'm sending outreach on YouTube, or sorry, I'm sending outreach on LinkedIn or like these DMs to different people, thinking about some DMs on Twitter and whatnot, and testing different approaches. And I've been testing sort of, well, what is the copy when I send a message to a YouTube creator? What is the copy? What's the primary value proposition? And my strategy is starting to change less around save time to make money. Right. And I'm not
Yeah.
even sure, and the reality is we don't even need mechanisms to necessarily right now. We don't need mechanisms to take credit card or anything like that. We have gated content to grow subscribers and so forth, and that serves that purpose of monetizing your YouTube subscribers. I feel like it's just a message change without a feature change, or not even a message. It's just like tweaking the messaging to dial it into what do people really want and what are they willing to pay for.
Yeah, and absolutely one other closer to the value prop as well, based off of a piece of feedback that I got, could be helping those creators always use their affiliate links as well, and maybe even introducing affiliate links for them. And so that was a use case where got the cat in the video. It's a win. That's a use
That's gonna
case
be
where
here. Anybody?
they've they've always got they've got an affiliate link already for a tool, let's say Gumloop or something like that's on my mind, and they mention it in a video. We are automatically pulling that out as one of the mentioned links for people to find, and then we could automatically apply their affiliate code to that link as well. Just they set it up one time in their admin, and every time it comes up, it's always there, right? And so we can help
Yeah.
them monetize that. And then on top of that, like we could introduce them to other, maybe they happen to mention fireflies or talk about fireflies in a video, but is there a place where we could partner up with the affiliate marketer, collectives, right, agencies, and the marketplaces? That's what I'm looking for. And then go ahead and introduce, like, we've got all your affiliate links. You may not end up using them, but if you do, then you're covered, right? And actually introduce whole new revenue streams they haven't sought out themselves. I think maybe is an interesting play too. I haven't, dug too much more into that other than what I already know about affiliate, but it's another place that might get, closer to the wallet too.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. Like I think all those alleys together like is serve the same purpose. Like some of the conversations that I had yesterday is like literally, I really like the quotes, the takeaways, everything that comes out of it, right? If you just chuck on something like a Patreon for me, I'd be sold.
All set.
Like, that's definitely in
Yeah.
line on the feedback that, we were kind of expecting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We've
that's
got to
awesome.
set up like a Substack today, right? Where you're scrolling, you get a little bit of the content, and then they ask you to subscribe. So, I mean, yeah, maybe it's just straightforward as that. Where we're already there. We're already slicing up enough value that someone would pay for a subscription membership.
I mean, there's also like, I mean, I found myself today because I took our Mosh Pit episode yesterday and I put it in YouTube, put it in bonus link, created bonus link, and I was like, at that point, I was going, hold on, do I share the YouTube video or do I share the bonus link? Right now, as product creators, we want people to share the bonus link, right? And because it's a kind of a it's like, how do people get to this page? Well, you either the creator is sharing the bonus link themselves, or somebody is coming through YouTube and then hopefully getting into the description and hopefully clicking on a bonus link that the creator has dropped there, right? You really want creators sharing the bonus link over the YouTube video, right? Which is it's a like hard problem to solve in some ways, right? Because everybody's like is very so there's a behavior change there, and there needs to be enough value to the creator on that bonus link page that they are willing to share that they not just willing to, they want to share this bonus link instead of sharing
Yeah.
the YouTube video, right? So
And
it's
it,
an
and it's
interesting.
interesting. Yeah, yeah, what you say makes a lot of sense. And I think one of the aspects that I hadn't thought about before, at least, was that the creators that do monetize it through advertising on the YouTube videos, right? So what they're reliant on is that basically, you watch the video from beginning to end, right? As much as you can, like even the 30 to an hour ones. And then to maximize sort of them getting into the ad revenue stream, right? Because it's all about, hours played. And so if the bonus link is a reduction of that, like, and for example, the things that we have like jump to takeaways are great, but they also mean that the viewers are less likely to view the entire video. So it can potentially conflict with the revenue stream through ad revenue on YouTube. So that's an interesting perspective, because like in that case you actually like you would be forced to have another revenue stream on there, because otherwise it's a loss for you.
Super arguably bad, Bob.
Well, if you give people more relevance, though it's smaller sections, they're more likely to consume the entirety of those small sections versus watch a very small portion of the long form and then bounce. And then the retention aspect is really important. So if I can get you to come back and watch 20 sections over 3-4 weeks, that outkicks, watching one long form and never returning. So I think there's a retention play there. Though the session length may be shorter, it could elongate them too. I think that's just we'd have to measure that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, and I
other
think it
the
really
other
depends on
aspect of
the
this
audience
is
too. Sorry, Ken,
Yeah.
go ahead.
yeah, the other aspect of this is with the goal of getting a viewer to become owned community, you're winning. So if you have a way to communicate to them that you can share the bonus link directly to them, and then they're choosing to consume it there, I would argue you're winning, and that you can pull them in closer and further. And going back to YouTube is up funnel. If they come back in through there, yeah, sure, we all go back to YouTube and we'll view something and then come down a path of a creator that we like and didn't click on their Patreon email instead. But that's up funnel. And so anytime I can get you to take an activity down funnel, I'm winning, right? And so then that to me it just goes to, well, what else would we need to do to expand bonus link to make sure that it is the home? And that's more of that content hub. So now again, you come to the bonus link content hub over the YouTube content hub because everything is there in bonus link if we put that there, and you're not distracted by Mr. Beast videos, right? And then so again, the creator keeps winning. The further they pull you away from YouTube, the better their wallet is. Anyways, that's like a quarter
Yeah.
of my day working on bonus link. Man, we're moving so fast and doing so many things. It's awesome. But I want to yield a little bit of time here for y'all to talk about the progress that you made on okay, gotcha, in the same amount of time. Want to hear it?
Yeah, real quick nugget and being cautious. So like that thing that is hard to do, right? I spent a big chunk of my day. So now we can do that thing on a 3-hour thing in under 2 minutes, which is cool because we couldn't go over a certain length of time because of the thing not having enough time to run. So that's going to get better.
Awesome.
Nice.
Okay, gotcha. We've been going fast here, right? Love for Calvin to talk about what he did overnight but I just thematically, I think it's interesting that this one's getting built in reverse. And a great example of that is, without building some or even a ton of the product early on as we're validating a fit, part of that fit is the tech side of it, right? How easy is this to integrate into what I'm thinking about as a dev, or we're thinking about as a team and an org? And so we've spec'd out the docs first versus building the solution. And I kind of like that approach, right? Can massage like empathetically, how would I want to consume this, right? And put a kind of sales hat on, like how easy can we make this surface area for consumers of the product? And so that's where Calvin started yesterday, and it looks really, really great. So just want to throw that out there. Calvin, you want to tell us about it?
Sweet. Yeah, absolutely can. I think part of the, I really love the calculus of okay, gotcha, right? Like I think the whole, getting human in the loop right, I think it's an amazing space for us to be in. And I think we discussed a couple of approaches, and I'm gonna just share my screen here real quick if it lets me get to the button. There we go. I'm gonna have a little bit of an infinite here for a second because it's a single screen. But you can see that, right? Just basically getting a simple documentation up, talking a lot about like the human in the loop, the importance, the high risk transactions, how do like flows work, also specifically from an SDK standpoint, how does it work with TypeScript and Python examples, right? And you can go into the deeps as much as you want. We have everything in terms of, how do you handle that and how does the SDK work? And I really think that we sort of landed on a very, very simple and easy way to do that. Where you can basically have decorator functions. So you can just add your OK required approval to it. And in general, like that makes, like, I think from a function perspective and from how you deal with everything a lot easier. And then we kind of, obviously have the landing page with all of the content in here. So we're basically at the right step where we can go out and validate it. So that kind of gets me really excited.
One cool thing I think that the approach we took on the content, I really appreciate and like is if you go through like it's sort of a early pitch deck, right? It's like problem, solution, value, contact, sign up, action, right? And the problem is interesting how we sort of framed it. We've got sort of these 4 boxes on there that at first are sort of marketing speak, right? Like stuff can go wrong, like whatever. And I was like, well, it's interesting, but I don't know if people are going to be able to wrangle that mentally. Like, what are some real use cases where shit can go wrong? And so, right at the gate, I think we explore those really, really well. I like the way we package them, how we display them, but it makes it very visceral. I think we have a couple examples. One is, what if you have an LLM gauging customer sentiment on a refund ask, and the customer knows they saw an article about your LLM AI prowess and how you've redefined customer service with AI. And they have this sense like, if I get really, really mad at this AI, am I going to be able to get my refund faster or maybe even a bigger refund? And so that's an example. It's a cascading effect, right? And so if you're super pissed off, maybe it gives you an extra $500. Of course, you don't want it to do that as a business. That doesn't make sense. Same thing with things like inventory or cross team issues where marketing's doing a campaign and the pricing is inaccurate, right? And so you got a lot of people running to buy a product at a discount, but the discount isn't correct. And so does that open up a Pandora's box of additional cost to unwind that later? And so I think from a value prop perspective, obviously affects the bottom line more than anything in terms of speed and quality, but in tangentially it could help the top line too, because those experiences just get much, much better and tighter.
As we go into, I mean, it's interesting. Those problems that you just described, like, are somewhat imagined, which is great. That's a great place to start. I think our job now is to find out where they are not imagined, where they're actually real, like showstoppers for people and organizations, like where we can pick up. And I think we should. This is, we know enough people in this space and folks who are building agents and so forth, like that we need to go figure out like where are the showstoppers and say like, hey, within the next, I don't know, early next week, can we replace the imagined use cases with real use cases? And if we can, by having these interviews and finding people who are telling us like where we really need a person to do this thing and transform the imagined use cases into real stories, then we're onto something as a validation step for sure, right?
It's not
Yeah,
even the use case; it's
you're
an
writing a
example,
good point.
right? I mean, I think if anybody who has had to tell an LLM to make a change knows the value of okay, gotcha, right? If you are convinced that you're going to get to a one-shot world where every single thing you put through an LLM is perfect on its first response, okay, gotcha is not for you, right? But we know, and anybody who has begun to kick the tires on AI in their org or solopreneur or whatever knows iteration is the operation model for working with AI. Like you always have to tell it a change and edit because nobody and no system in the world is going to get anything right the first time because there's too many assumptions on the first rev, right? So those are good examples, but you're right. I just think in general it's sort of a higher order problem, which is in those experiences, those replies back usually happen in the context of a chat GPT like interface, right? And the new world is using AI within systems. And so a okay gotcha becomes essentially the chat GPT interface in front of your organizational systems and workflows. So the ICP is really, I think, folks who are investing in AI workflows. It's pretty broad, but I think the value prop will land.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Now our job is to go out and narrow and narrow and narrow, right? So like figuring out like very specific organizations and very specific problems. And the more we can do that, then the more it becomes, repeatable and visceral and whatnot. And so, getting out of our heads and and talking to people, they're out
Yeah,
there for sure. You know.
yeah. And I think at this stage of the product, like we're ready to do it. So I think
Yeah.
now it's all about the distribution side of things. I think specifically the target list, etc., and go into details and
I
science
mean,
approach to it.
it is interesting how much of this. I mean, it's one of the things I think it's can be challenging. This is, I mean, I find this a lot of times when I'm having AI write copy or write the description for a product or whatnot. Like it's only like it can be really generic. Like the problems can be really generic. Like the copy on the page can be really generic. And they don't necessarily like AI doesn't really know the problems that we know, right? And it's sort of like the challenge of that like we are talking about with bonus link and like hey, there's, we can say, oh, atomizes content, or we can say, hey, it helps monetize your subscribers. Which one lands better? If we were to just sort of give bonus link, or if we're just give an LLM the current page, it's probably going to say, well, it atomizes content. But we know as marketers and as builders that giving it that twist that turns the screw into where the pain is and where the money is can get better results. And so I think that it can be challenging to just rely on copy that comes out for a good landing page or for a good YouTube title or for a good, and I keep wishing that it would, but it's back to that quality thing. I always find that it still is struggling in some way. I think the one thing that also quality wise, I would love to land on or just talk about if, before we sort of run out of time, um, is the security stuff on Replit, right? And Bob, you reviewed the Bounty Bot, a laundry list of open of open endpoints for APIs for people to do all sorts of stuff, right? Well, I just want to talk about that briefly because I think it's an interesting problem that like pretty much everybody who's sort of vibe coding or using Replit or using Cursor or whatnot has, which is like what it puts out isn't secure, right? I'm not sure. I ran it through again and ran an update. And hopefully it is better now. I don't know, but I think that it's an interesting. I think there's so many people who are jumping into Replit or jumping into Cursor and building stuff, and we've heard the horror stories. Calvin, you and I we discussed this the other night. Starting to put out into the world like, hey, people should join our Discord, join our group, join our community, so that way they can at least like, not like we want to, audit everybody's for free, but at least if people have questions or whatnot, or like, hey, like they have people to bounce it off of. So, because I think there's a ton of people out there who are going to be having this problem of, of like, is my app going to rug the world? Right. So that
Yeah,
was
that
one thing that I've been working on.
it'd be like if you drop me in a space shuttle and be like, fly this thing. I'm like, grab the controls. So I would start yoking. But there's like 5,000 buttons. I have no idea what the buttons are for, when or why to push them. And so this is just a function, to your point, like just you kind of have to know what to ask. If clearly there's so much to know, how do you know what to ask? Based on your stream a few days ago, guys, like around pre-planning, PRDs, creating product requirements docs, and having kind of a game plan on templating that as you build more products. The next product that gets built with Replit, whatever it might be, is probably going to be based on a template, and in that template there's some guidelines and some hammer time rules around security and so on. It was instantaneous. The moment I looked at it, I said, this is wide open. Like, it was super easy to figure that out. Right. I the solve that it put in is directionally correct. That it's not going to work. It's going to throw it in an infinite loop, but it's closer to what we need there. Probably like a line of code away. So one more iteration on the wheel there, I think, gets it there. But it, just sort of that thing. If you had to sit down and create a laundry list of like the X number of things that are super important, like core security is going to be on that list. And so I think, again, it's just kind of a function of creating a repeatable process around generation of software. And
Yeah,
as
and
we
that the whole
learn
time
more,
I was
we
thinking, Calvin, I was like,
beef up the
This
template
is such
and the
a
rules.
potentially a great use case for your security bot." Is so it's like because I kept like looking around. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
can't I just put my URL someplace and get this thing scanned? And I'm sure there's something out there, right? Like, besides for asking you, Bob, there's got to be some.
But those other places don't look. I bet those other places don't look very trustworthy, though, either. Insert your URL here, and we'll totally tell you what your open endpoints are. Like I was looking at something, trying to get something the other day. Do a little roundabout, end around on a SaaS piece of software, and the sites that were looking to help me do those end arounds, I was not about to get involved with. And so, at the end of the day, it's just like, man, trusted source, apply a little bit of money here is totally worth solving the problem. Yeah, security bot would be cool to apply to that.
Yeah, it's good food for thought. I might dig out the hunter, getting Luther out of the box. Oh, it'd be funny getting Luther out of the box. I'd be
Luther's just pissed off, like pacing
right.
in the basement right now, just like, give me a chance, man.
Yeah,
Let
want
me
to
have
want
it.
to take your page down in 3 minutes. Press this button. Uh, I mean, Luther is great at finding every single problem. Actually, we could definitely redeploy that. That would be a fun exercise.
I mean, I was on a call today, a tool for this tool that to help identify TikTok creators that might align with your product promotion, and it was vibe coded, and by a person that again did their best, wasn't technical to start with. I was using like Framer and I think Lovable, and yeah, first version they post right, completely open endpoints, and it was just a database product at that point. So it's just like, yeah, grab the database, got the whole product, and then evolved to another version of the product, and there were some open endpoints there too, and then finally it sounded like they synced up with senior dev from name big Silicon Valley company here to pair with them and drive the product forward, rip it out of where it was at, actually start to host it, uh, and beef up some things. But that's the way you described it. It was like, that's why I can't quite remember the tools in the stack, because it was literally like, yep, here's Framer, here's Lovable, here's Claude, here's Supabase, here's where I started to learn Cursor, and I couldn't even keep track of like what things were in what state and plugged into where at any given time. And it's fine to like build that product right there, right? He went really fast and MVP, and he was using automations and Google Sheets to push things where Airtable, right, where he didn't need to have a whole database. But then to unwind it, it was a lot. It
Uh-huh.
sounded like a lot to
I
unwind
know.
it.
Yeah, I
Instead of
know.
instead
God,
of
I
vibe
had the
coding,
friend. Yeah.
should call it Holiday Inn Expressing, right? Like, are you a doctor? No, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Are you a vibe coder? Yes.
Yeah. And I
It's
mean,
kind of the same
it's
thing.
fascinating. Yeah, like, it's fascinating. I mean, what people get to build with it, right? Like on the flip side, like I'm always amazed at how far they get,
Totally.
especially with Lovable abstracting so much of it that it does seem very easy. But a lot of these are also geared towards pleasing, right? So like if you want to if you want something from a machine and you're not a coder, you want to enter something and something comes out that you can look at, right? All the things that you can't look at are just not as exciting for you to stick to the product, right? And those things, namely, are security, right? Like all the backend rate limiting endpoints, etc. And like you would assume that when I have to be fair, like before I tried Lovable myself and looked at a couple of exams, had assumed that they would just take care of it. It's funny that they just don't, right? It's like not to bash on them. I think this is an amazing product, absolutely an amazing product, and I understand what they're coming from. In the end, it's on the side of the user, right? But it's still fascinating that's the state that we're in at the moment.
Apps are hard. I think vibe coding has a really great spot here around design for sure. It's kind of like a
Yeah,
house, like building a house is one thing, painting a house is another. And a lot of builders aren't design wizards. And so you've
yeah,
got this whole other segment of that industry of designers that, paint and stage and make a home look great. Whereas a contractor is focused on the engineering aspect of it. And could you ask a designer to build a house? They've probably been around enough houses that they could tell you in general how maybe it works. But when it comes down to the detail, as you build a house, the plans change because of things that have been installed prior to the moment in time that you're building something else. So, like a wall is not plumb, as an example.
yeah,
So, how do you account for the unplumb wall to continue the build? That's where the vibe coders get stuck, right? Is
Yeah.
when it becomes imperfect, right? Because then you need a little bit of expertise to figure out, like, how do we use a little, as my dad would say, caulky and painty makes a carpenter what he ain'ty, right? So how do you throw the caulk and paint in a way that that wall looks plumb, but it's not, but it doesn't, ruin the home? I forget why I went on that tangent, but you get the point.
Yeah. No, it's always great. Like it's always attractive to start with green space, right? Where you go white space and green field, where you go, this is green field. It's like in a established organization, a developer hearing, yeah, here, this is the greenfield feature, like extremely little to no ties to anything else or the code base. So they feel like they're on a vacation. Like I get to go to a tropical island for 1 to 4 weeks and develop this thing. This is going to be awesome, right? And it is because you don't bump up into the unplumbed wall over there. If you did, you put it there. It's your fault, right? You put your own unplumbed wall there, and so you deal with it. And that's great to get started. But it's every product you want it to mature and be around for a long time, and so you're going to find some unplumbed walls as you go. And even just in the product that we built for Bonus Link in 2 weeks, just like any product, there's a lot of things we want to do. There's a lot of things that are there, and you want to keep going. There's so much that we can do. It's not like you can't see 1,000 things that we can do to it, but you got to stop somewhere, right? You got to go monetize it so you can go build more on it. And so behind that, where you've stopped, is also some unplumbed walls along the way that you're going to bump back into. And some of those we put down, and we may not pick up for a year from now. That we
Oh,
might
there's no
not get back
unplumbed
around to
walls.
some of
There's no
those.
unplumbed walls in that. It's square. The whole
You
thing's
get you get my analogy here. Yeah. So it is really interesting to think about how people have crossed the chasm here from vibe coding, which we previously would have called like prototype, to products. It's just like people are just willing to pay for the prototypes now, effectively, right? Because they're so good.
yeah.
Interesting
That's
world.
that's a fair way to put it. I see we're sort of reaching the top of the hour. How do you feel about making a good stop here? Do you guys feel we've
Yeah.
dived deep enough into the weeds today? How are we
Yeah.
feeling?
Yeah.
It was a fun and lovely session. I think we touched on a lot of exciting things. We touched on a lot of exciting things around Bonus Link. We touched on OK Gotcha. We touched on vibe coding and security. And as Dave's heading into the launch of the Bounty Bot, which is also exciting. So I think a lot of good things covered.
Yeah. Take a look
Great.
at bonuslink.io. Anybody who's out there listening, and for Bonus Link itself, to make sure that they put that link in the Bonus Link page.
This link in the description of this video below. Check it out.
Right on.
All right, y'all.
So guys.
Thanks, go.